5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yo, what's up, y'all? This your boy T-Lo.
Yo, what's Gucci? This your man Tweet.
What up, y'all? DJ Kid Fresh.
What's up? This your boy RL.
And we're next.
And you're rocking with The Rebirth every Monday at 7 p.m.
But you know the hits. Rebirth Radio, baby. Every Monday, 7 p.m. Shay and Eli. All right, rocking that old school. Peace.
With your host, Shay Marriott.
Let's go.
And Eli Isabel.
At Philly Jam, 95.3 FM.
What is Tanera Willis from the Amazing Corner. So if you don't know about them, look them up, support, follow. It's definitely a good cause. We had a really good time.
Awesome.
Yep. So before we get into introducing our guests, of course, we always have Black History Moment every Monday here. We just don't celebrate or acknowledge Black History over the month of February. We try to do it every Monday here on the Rebirth.
Awesome.
So, do you like beer? Anybody like beer in here? Yeah.
Oh yeah, he said. Nah, I'm not a beer drinker myself.
All right. So, did you guys know that Michigan has their first Black-owned brewery? Yeah, pretty cool. I think we have a picture coming up. It's called the Black Calder Brewing Company, and that's in Michigan. Look at these brothers. They are doing it.
That's awesome.
Now, I've never been to Michigan.
Me neither.
And I'm not a big beer drinker, but if I ever go, I would definitely go check them out, support them.
Shout out to them.
Definitely. They opened in 2020, which is big because that was also during the pandemic.
Oh yeah, they made it through. That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
so they
good,
made
though.
it through. So
Look fairly young too.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? That's good.
So they said we're culture. Black Calder Brewing Company was established to make a great beer and provide a platform for innovation, art, culture, and inclusion through collaboration in the craft beer industry. So as I said, it is Black owned, and they said their craft in brewing, their motto is simple: we make dope beer for dope people and always do it for the culture. I love it.
That's what's up.
I love it. Do it for the culture. You know?
Cracking the door open.
Yes, yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool.
So speaking of culture, I have to recap. Did you watch? Well, of course you did. You watched the BET Awards last night?
I saw parts of the BET Awards.
Did you?
Yeah, I saw parts. I enjoyed the outtakes this morning more than I did the show. But I did notice there was definitely a difference in the show. Mm-hmm. It was longer. They looked like they took time, right? So like you think about some of the they axed, it wasn't like cut off. They didn't do half renditions.
Right.
It seemed like it ran longer. I think there always needs to be some type of polish to the BET Awards, though, sometimes, right? But I think with Tyler Perry at the helm, you'll start to see more people not only participating, right? So you think about some of these bigger celebrities that we have in our culture that don't show up to things like that. But I think that with his connections and I think some of the things that he's going to be able to do, I think we will see a definitely uplift in it. But I did see it, and what I did see, I was happy with. Busta Rhymes, I love the fact that, he got recognized. His speech was super long, but important, though.
Busta said he was going to have his moment.
Yeah. He's like, I'm about to get out of here. And then 10 minutes later, he was still there. It was almost as long as Aretha Franklin's funeral. But I think his message was important, bringing the community together and stop fighting each other and, to get back to making money and making sure that we're supporting each other, which was awesome. I enjoyed Little Boosie. He was happy to be out of jail and, fell out of his seat a couple times. And he showed up with his lawyers, which was hilarious.
He showed up with his lawyers?
Yeah, his lawyers was at the seat with him. Yeah, he brought his
didn't-
lawyers. That was funny. Shout out to JT and Little Uzi. There was a little fight, little tussle. She threw her iPhone 14 at his forehead.
What was wait a minute.
You see that?
No.
Oh,
this
yeah,
was
you-
during the awards?
Yeah, you're a journalist, so you probably saw the good stuff.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, she threw her iPhone 14 at his forehead. Allegedly it was because he was sitting a little too close to Ice Spice or taking a little too many pictures. She said he lost his seat, but
And who
she was
was
sitting
this?
in the seat.
Who
Little
did this?
Uzi and the City Girls. JT.
Oh,
Carisha?
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Took him out.
Let me tell you what I saw.
What'd you see? You saw Patty?
I enjoy all the old school hip hop artists coming out.
Yeah, my favorite DJ was there.
Yeah,
Pick
like
a Free.
I enjoy all of that.
That
You
was
know,
dope.
all the other stuff I actually
ain't see
didn't.
all that?
I didn't. Well, I also had my laptop open too.
You was working?
Working
And watching.
Working and watching. But I enjoyed all the hip hop, the
Yeah.
old school.
Yeah.
Seeing the artists perform. Big Daddy Kane's like one of my favorites all time. So I enjoyed that.
That was
and
great
of
too.
course Buster.
That was great, too.
He was holding it. Buster
He
was
was.
holding it together.
He was holding
He was
it
just
together.
like, I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
He broke down. No, he broke down. But yeah, it was good. I'm curious to see. They did a lot yesterday for hip hop, and I'm curious to see what the hip hop awards is gonna look like when that comes.
That actually looked like the hip hop
It did.
awards because it was
It did.
actually all hip hop,
did.
but in celebration of the 50th anniversary,
Correct.
of course.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Wow. Now I have to go back and recap.
You definitely
and
do.
relook at it. All right,
Shout
guys.
out to Patty. Check on her.
Yes, Patty LaBelle. I know she forgot some words, but that's okay. Patty get a pass. Patty,
Yeah, she
she's
get
been
a pass.
around,
Absolutely.
so she looked great.
She did look
She
good,
looked
and I'm
great.
still trying to get an invite to Thanksgiving. So
She right.
I'll keep my comments.
She
God
looked
bless
great.
her.
All right, guys. So I am going to introduce our guest for tonight. We are going to be talking about unlocking your potential. So to the right of me, we have Dr. Lawrence Kirby. Welcome to the Rebirth. Could you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Thank you for the extended applause.
Welcome.
All right, so I'm Dr. Kirby and refer to myself as Kirby. Basically, licensed professional counselor. I have a private practice down in Central Delaware. A lot of folks know that I'm also retired from the United States Air Force. And basically, I just try to look out for veterans and individuals of color in ensuring that their mental health is being taken care of.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely, thank you. And to the left of me, this gentleman here, Mr. Jason Coleman.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes, welcome to the Rebirth.
All right.
So please let our audience know who you are, what you do.
So my background is as a elementary, secondary school counselor, which is where I met you for the first time when I used to wear a three-piece suit every other day and run around the school looking like the principal, but I was not. But yeah, so my background is in, working with youth, and I'm currently with the Mental Health Association in Delaware, also doing work in the community, educating people about mental health, mental wellness, doing lots of trainings on suicide intervention and mental health first aid and that sort of thing. So,
yes, thank you to the both of you, because the work is needed.
Absolutely. Welcome.
Definitely, it's needed in the community, and I love the fact that we do have two black males here, where we can actually really talk about mental health, because I do believe it is a shortage of black male therapists, especially here in the state of Delaware. I only can speak for the state of Delaware, but it's just really important. So when we talk, first of all, happy Father's Day, happy belated Father's Day.
Thank you.
To you guys. I know we've been asking everyone that has come on in the month of June, what do you guys like to do for Father's Day? Because I'm hearing that we're getting it all wrong. I'm hearing that, everything is commercialized to the mothers, and they're only showing tools and stuff like that for men. So what is your ideal Father's Day? I'm just curious.
Say that like that's not true, Shay.
No, it is true. I'm just saying, I'm here
fact.
allegedly. No.
Yeah, allegedly, that happens.
Dr. Kirby, what is your ideal of, a good Father's Day for you?
A good Father's Day is hearing from my children, 4 of them. So this year was 3 texts and 1 card. If I can get a 2-2 split, I'm pretty cool with that. But it didn't happen this year, so it's all good. It's all in love. But actually, the ideal Father's Day for me is just being able to chill around the crib. And believe it or not, I still like to grill for myself. So I'll get something out of the ordinary, throw it on the grill, and get my chill on that way. But just basically rest, relaxation, no restaurants, no getting out, no people like really hyping me up. I just wanna get my chill on.
Okay, I like that. What about you?
look, my Father's Day, my best Father's Day is like every other day. When I'm with my son, he's 6
He's
right
so
now.
cute,
He's running me around all over the place, and I love every minute of it. So it doesn't have to be anything that special for me. I mean, he actually this year was actually quite different. He did a whole bunch of crafts for me, and made and they had balloons. My wife and him, they had it all set up, and everything was decorated with the crafts. I had he picked out a cake for me. The one that he wanted to eat. You understand what I'm saying?
The one he wanted to eat.
He knew what my favorite flavor was, but he got this other, and I said I'm happy to try something new, and that's what awesome. I did. I tried something new, and it was wonderful. We just spend time together. We hang out, and it doesn't have to be anything over the top.
Yeah.
But it was a little more. And I was like, ooh, what's happening this year? I was like, I'm leveling up here. I got a cake. I got a home cooked meal.
Next year it's gonna be off the chain.
You know what I mean? Like I was like, hold on a second. I must have really been fathering this last year.
You been fathering this year.
Must have been something.
That's awesome. That's what's up.
I love it. What about you, Corey?
My kids and food, most important thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Kids and food, yeah, for sure. But as they continue to get older, it's like start to not see them as much.
Right.
It was the first time I had them in the same area at the same time in a long time. Right?
Okay.
And they live in the same house, but you don't, they hit
Right.
and miss.
Right.
But it was cool though. I think the thing is for me, it's the most important thing is just spending time with them, even if it's for a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But that's the most important thing for me.
Okay, I love it. I like the chill vibe, and because it doesn't take much. And I actually prefer that for Mother's Day as well. I just want to chill. I don't like going to restaurants and all of that. It's just too crowded. I don't want to wait the whole day to try to get in to eat. I like to sit back and chill. So, all right.
But don't take the chill feeling and don't splurge yourself.
Do something,
OD.
right?
Go ahead. We won't be mad. Let us downgrade it. But cool.
I love it. All right, so let's get in our conversation. Again, we are talking about unlocking your potential, and our focus tonight is actually going to be talking about mental health, especially mental health in the Black community. So one of the questions that I would like to start off with is, why do you guys think that mental health in the Black community is, people don't want, people are now, they're starting to, be more involved in therapy, but it's been very challenging. I would just like to get your perspective as to why you think that is,
Well, I think that the biggest issue is the fact that there's not a lot of Black therapists, of Black mental health professionals that we as people can relate to. So that's the biggest thing. Maybe back in the day when you were young, something was forced upon you. You had to go to this big mental health agency, and there wasn't anyone that looked like you. So you can unfortunately get a negative connotation, a negative experience just dealing with those individuals who are not Black. I just got to be straight up. Oftentimes when my clients are talking to me, one of the first things out of their mouth was like, yo, I went and talked to this older white lady and this white dude, and he didn't understand. I was raising my voice, he was getting scared, and this, that, and the third. Or they're not going to understand a lot of the issues and concerns that we went through. I mean, good, bad, or indifferent, nobody's going to understand what it's like to be called the N-word by people that don't look like you. Nobody's going to understand if you've ever been chased by people that don't look like you, and just other factors. So unfortunately, within the Black community, not having someone to reach out that looks like them, has a similar experiences, has made mental health a challenge for them to be accepted. Another thing that I've actually been intrigued by is the reliance on prayer. Now, let me preface this. I ain't no atheist, but unfortunately, I often hear that, I had this issue, I had this mental health issue, and my folks told me to pray it out, or I went to my pastor, or pray it out, this, that, and the third.
Right.
But if you're praying, but you're not putting any action with it, it's a moot point.
Right.
So that's just my thing. So sometimes, from what I've noted, folks will turn to that versus, once again, coming to a mental health professional. So those are a couple of things that stand out to me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Jason, what's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, Dr. Kirby covered it exactly. I think, not seeing yourself reflected in those who are providing the treatment, I think is something that's very, very important. Also, I think working in schools and seeing families, and sometimes families resistant to it, I think you have to kind of take a step back and realize that there's a lot of other barriers and things that we go through, a lot of other labels that we are constantly trying to shake, and then you have to ask yourself, is that one more that you want to add? What's the benefit?
Right.
What's the benefit of me now? Oh, now I have mental health issues too, right?
Right.
I'm everything you say I am, and not and more, right?
Yeah.
And so I have to live with that, but then I also have to deal with this. But the real truth of it is, when you change that perspective on what mental health treatment can do for you, how it can improve your life, how it can help you to address and deal with things and be in a place that you want to be and to feel how you want to feel. There's a lot to be gained from kind of letting go of those ideas about what it is and try it, you know. Because a lot of times it's something different than what people think it's going to be, because that's what we're left to. We don't really have a way of being educated about what therapy is like and what is it? You know, I mean, when I was younger, I thought, oh, that's when you go in and lay down on the couch,
right?
And somebody sits there and they take notes, right? And it's like, no, that's not therapy. That's like what therapy looks like in the movies,
right?
You know,
Exactly.
And so you have all these people that don't know what real therapy looks like and how it even works, and so you're just left to your own imagination. And that's not always a good place to be, especially for something that important.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to leave your physical health to your imagination. Like, I wonder what happens in hospitals. Oh, I just won't go.
Right.
You know, that could be dangerous for us.
Right.
And the same thing, but it happens that way with mental health.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, Shay, I
is.
just want to jump in on that as well. Basically, therapy is having a conversation. It's so very important for me to tell folks that we're sitting here, we're having a conversation, we're chopping it up, trying to get a feel for what you're going through, so I can help to get you in a positive place. But the key thing is conversation, and unfortunately, people have a negative connotation to counseling, and I often attribute that to being forced into counseling. Maybe when you were young, maybe you were on the other side of the law, something crazy like
mandated,
that. So you had to go to counseling. And then, unfortunately, that's going to be a negative. But I just want to throw it out there.
Yeah.
It's all about having a conversation.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And it's funny because the whole couch thing definitely exists, because I've had clients come in the office who's like, "Oh my God, you really do have a couch? Can I lay on it?"
Right.
So it's funny. What about you, Corey? What is your thoughts?
I think even with that, like, if you think about, we've all, when you talked about the couch, we've all heard that, right? So thinking about how that spread through over generation and generation, right? But I think, even, when we talked about it at the expo that we did, just the name, mental health, will discourage somebody because something wrong with me, right? It's not necessarily about something being wrong. You're already talking to somebody. You just need to talk to somebody that can help you, and that has the tools to help you through it, right? And I think the other piece of it is just really normalizing that a lot of people are doing this and it's not talking about, right? So I think that the stigma that comes along with it is bad information, number one. Two, the things that we've been taught that are just bad stuff, right? And then obviously making sure that we understand that there's a community of people that are going to therapy to get support. Same thing you said, we work out in the gym, or we run and things like that. But taking care of your whole self, meaning physically, mentally, emotionally, is a thing.
Well, I love what you said, which is people are already doing it, right?
100%.
And if you think about the context of it, we go to people that we care about with problems, right? We go to people that we care about, that we know, that are close to us with our struggles. But the problem when it comes to some of these mental health concerns is everybody's not qualified to give you the right advice.
Right.
Just the same way that you care about me, but you don't suddenly become my cardiologist. You don't suddenly become my brain surgeon or my dentist, depending on what is going on in my life. But we will do that with our mental health, and it's to our detriment, because we're just not talking to the right people who can give us the right feedback, the right guidance. Just because somebody knows me well doesn't mean they understand how to navigate my problems.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily understand how to navigate my emotions. They don't know how to do the right kinds of screenings on me to find out if something's happening biologically with me.
Yeah,
They don't know how
true.
to do that. So I'm just so I can get certain things from them, but I can't always get everything I need.
Yeah, sometimes you're just circulating bad solutions.
Yeah.
Right?
That
Take this
happens,
drink,
too.
take this pill, take somebody else's pill, just make you feel better, right?
Yeah.
Bad circle, bad information. So all of that stuff happens, but you just have to be qualified to go to the right person. So I agree with that.
I think too, a barrier is again what we're taught, growing up. What was said in this house stays in this house. We don't share certain information. Of course, you spoke on it earlier about just pray about it. And we know, Black family, we pray about everything. Everything. Just pray about it. And like you said, that's good. I tell people you can have prayer and you can have God and a therapist as well, or whatever your higher, whoever you believe in. You can have that and a therapist as well. So I always give the analogy of if you broke your arm, right? Are you going to fix your arm yourself, or are you going to go to a doctor to see, a doctor and have them take care of it? And it's the same thing. You just don't always see the inside of the brokenness that we, people have. And, if we can get people in the ideal of, as you do, like when you go for physicals, which unfortunately that's an issue as well, because we don't go to doctors. But if you go to a doctor, to get checked, going to a mental health, provider, that's important as well. Right. To do that is so important. And I think the other thing is too, unfortunately, the history of us being tested on has caused, trust issues within our medical model. It's just a big trust. And, like you said, not seeing a people or therapist that's across from us that looks like us. We're getting better. It is definitely getting better. But I still think that people do have a trust issue when it comes down to what are you going to say? Like you had said earlier, too, about labeling. Right. A lot of people are more caught up on what you're writing, that's why I don't write in front of my clients. I don't write in front of my patients. I don't do any notes in front of them because it's a distraction for them. They want to know what you're writing. Well, what are you saying, and that can go left.
Yeah, we talked about praying, which I think is never going to discourage from prayer. But I was listening to this thing, this guy said, if Big Mama talked to me as much about life as she did about God, I would be more equipped to walk through life, right? Which is a big deal. So I think you do have to do both for sure. And one of the questions I wanted to toss out there, if you don't mind, Shay, is: are other communities or other nationalities or groups going to therapy at a higher rate than us? Because sometimes the perception is that whites are going or not going. Are they going more than us, or are Spanish going more than us? Because they isolate us too, like y'all not going and y'all not going. But what is the rate in other communities that are going to therapy?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I can't really speak to the other races, but I do know that Black males have the lowest percentage of seeking out mental health involvement. So that much I know just from having researched and just being curious about it.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. And nobody's going. No community is going as much as they should.
Yeah, sure.
None are. And there's certainly other kinds of barriers, I think, that everybody has, that are a little bit different, depending on the background, depending on the community. But nobody's going as often, as much as they should. And there's a lot of self-stigma, I think, that people have when it comes to mental health. I mean, I think it's easy to kind of point the finger and say, well, it's all about, people say people are going to call them crazy. People are going to use all these other words. That's not what I think when you talk to enough people who are in treatment. That's not the biggest barrier. It's the stuff that they thought about people who get help before they went and before they needed it. Before they found themselves on the other side of that fence.
Right.
Because then you have to really confront what kinds of things you really thought about those individuals if they need help. If you go back and you think back to, what was it, 2008, when the economy crashed, and 2007, 2008, and there was the big economy. There was a lot of people in the unemployment line that had a lot of opinions about people who take handouts and do all. And that was the first time they had to go and get that, and that was hard for a lot of
pandemic
people.
Too. That's a good point.
Yeah,
So and I think that's the thing about mental health is so often it's easy for us to have ideas and feelings about it when it's theoretical. It's when those problems come home and they're sitting on your doorstep, when it's your spouse, when it's your parent, when it is your significant other, when it's your cousin, your brother, your uncle, whoever it is. It's when you see, because you see the humanity in that person first, and not the problem first.
Right.
But and so I think that people need to really try to personalize this whole idea of mental health and treatment, and really kind of take a hard look and say, well, what do I have to lose by getting other ideas about how to solve problems? I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can look at counseling and the conversation, like Dr. Kirby's saying. I think that's really what it is. But I think you have to start putting it in terms of that so people can actually get that idea, so that can sit with them longer than the idea of the couch with the person writing. You know, that this is what it really is. This is what it does. This is how it can help you.
Yeah. One of the things that hit me as you all were talking, you know, sometimes the stigma happens when we don't normalize conversations in our personal lives. Right? The first time you go to your mom and your dad to talk about an F that you got on your report card or something that happened with one of your friends, they almost chastise you first. You know what I mean? Or quit that crying.
Right.
It starts there.
Absolutely.
Right? And then how do if the person that I'm supposed to trust the most is not willing to have a conversation with me, I'm supposed to trust Jason or Dr. Kirby, or I don't even know him.
Right.
Right? So, you know, I think the thing is for us is that we have to start normalizing conversations and being open to what that sounds like or what that feels like in our homes. Because then you start to build trust with other folks.
I mean, we do this with kids.
Yeah.
We can't wait till they can talk until we start talking, and then you tell them to shut up.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, very
And the
true.
same thing happens, like you just said, you know, quit that crying. What are you crying about? No. You can, if we teach kids from a very young age that they can express themselves emotionally in healthy ways, then when they get older, they're not limited to anger and aggression.
100%.
Because that tends to be what is more socially acceptable.
Yeah.
And isn't that really kind of a scary thing, a reflection of our society, is that we're more comfortable with people yelling, hitting, throwing things than people hugging, people crying. You know, that's what is normal. That's acceptable.
Very true.
You know, that's not going to be that's not going to get you ostracized in school. If you cuss out the teacher and slam the door and storm out, but you sit down at your desk and cry in school and see where that gets you, right? And that in and of itself is the real problem, is that, you know, we're not comfortable with people expressing emotions, and then there's no outlet for those things, and then we wonder why there's all these, you know, maladaptive behaviors that come out of it.
Yeah.
It shouldn't really be a surprise to us.
Yeah. I'm always curious about what happens in schools these days, right? Like, do they have, I don't know, I'm not in school, but, you know, do they have, we used to have assemblies, right? Do they have those things for mental health reasons, right? Do they role play and say, this is what this looks like, or this is what this could potentially be like? Because I think we do it in large corporations, right? You have an initiative, you pull everybody in, and this is what it is. But are we doing that in our schools to normalize it at the younger high school, middle school, elementary school level?
If you're asking me, the last time I was in a school, I had hair. So don't be playing around with me. It's been a while.
That's true.
It's been a while since I've been
call
there.
out. Good call
okay?
out.
All right. But typically like groups and having kids like address those kind of emotional things between counselors, school psychologists, behavioral health specialists that might come in. It will happen with a percentage of the population, but certainly not always as many as could use it, just based upon the structure of the day and things that are needed. But, you know, there's always a push for it amongst those who are doing the counseling work.
Gotcha.
Yeah, in addition, at least within Delaware, many of the school districts are having partnerships with behavioral health professionals who are embedded in the schools. So at least that gives an opportunity for them to address some of the issues with the young people that they see. They don't have group sessions, or they're not role playing, but at least there's an individual available for them to speak to. So it's just a matter of usage and a matter of, are those children or those young people acclimated and comfortable enough to step to those individuals and express what's really going on.
And it happens at a different rate depending on whether you're talking about like elementary, middle, or high school. I think more of the social, emotional stuff happens in middle. Then, I mean, when people get up into the high school, like the counselors tend to be more like academic deans in a way that they are going to be able to work with people. And there's also other resources as kids get older. You know, they might have wellness centers in high schools that might not necessarily be in all middle schools. But I think that, you know, if people are wondering what's happening in their child's school, they should go ask. That's and advocate for what they feel like needs to be there and what they want to see happening.
Yeah, good call out.
And actually, just going back to an earlier part of the conversation, we were kind of speaking to the white picket fence family, 2.5 children, but oftentimes we have families in certain relationships where it's fractured, and they don't really have the knowledge to share certain things with upbringing and nurturing. And it's not so much a knock, it just unfortunately is something that maybe they're aware of or that they learn, which is we deem it negative behavior, but it can actually be deemed as normalized within their society. So yeah, you have young people cursing out the teacher, or you have individuals wanting to fight all the time, good, bad, or indifferent. If that's what your life is like, if you're a young person who's acclimated to domestic violence, then yeah, there's not really going to be an opportunity for you to learn about how to show your emotions in what we deem the positive way. So I just want to throw that out there. Everybody is not raised in that nurturing environment, and we have to ensure that we're looking out for the other folks who need that additional boost.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Center for Child Development, that's what we do. We have over 100 schools in the state of Delaware where we have therapists in every school, right? Working with the kids, doing individual sessions, doing groups, but also, because the need is high, also working with the teachers and the administrators in regards to mental health. We will go in, we'll do trainings and teach them, because a lot of your teachers, your administrators, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. The need for mental health services is very, very overwhelming. I know for us, we never had a waiting list ever. And over the last year was the first time we had a waiting list, because the demand was very high. So, and I have a lot of friends that are therapists, so I will refer, So I want to address some of the comments that's on here, because we have some people chiming in. Nellie B says, she said, although others may be going to therapy, I think the question for me is, are they implementing what they've obtained from therapy? Then Levante, hey Levante says, she says, I have God and my therapist t-shirts on sale on her website. All right, make sure we go to Levante Dorsey website and purchase your I have God and my therapist t-shirt. She actually does. That's funny. So when we're talking about overall mental wellness and stuff, and we're talking about unlocking your potential, that is a step, one of the steps that, is important to be able to unlock your full potential. What other things do you feel needs to be addressed for one to be able to, unlock the full potential of, the things that they can be or where they can be in their life?
I think it's important for an individual to feel comfortable during the session to really talk about what's going on in their minds. It could be family issues, so you want to get a feel for how they can improve their relationship with their family, children, significant other. That can increase their potential. I have individuals coming to me who want to better their education, so it's a matter of how can you encourage them. And we think of education like you got to go to college, but it's not always about college. It's certifications. It's like basically, what do you want to do, and then trying to help them get on track to do that they're interested in. So, that's the aspect there. And then the key thing is just feeling comfortable with the emotions that they have, with the feelings that they have about themselves. Oftentimes we beat ourselves up over misses in life, things we missed out on, missed opportunities. We look back on unfortunately, negative things that have occurred. So for me, unlocking your potential is changing that mindset, changing those thoughts, from the cognitive behavioral therapy perspective. Right. I'm really focusing on how people think about things, and I find that good, bad, or indifferent, they tend to focus on negative things that went down, 5 years ago, 50 years ago, and they're just harboring that. So it's a matter of getting them to change their thought processes, think about the positive things that are going on. I always tell folks when we're having conversations that I'm the eternal optimist. I'm always like, they'll hit me with something negative, and I'm like, yo, but you made it through, or like, yo, what about this? And I'm always like flipping it on them, letting them know that these are some of the positive things. Even something as simple as, hey, you had the heart to come and talk with somebody about what's going down in your life. So I think unlocking your potential has a lot to do with getting individuals to feel better about things that have occurred in their life and getting them focused on the positive things that we want to occur in the future in their life.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the things I was writing down as you all talking, I always taking notes, right? I think sometimes you just have to be, you talk about unlocking potential. We have to make sure that we're not putting corks on people's conversation and their dreams. Very early, you would have, you think about when, I was coming up, you wanted to be in the NBA, you wanted to play sports, you wanted to do these things. And the first thing people say, you better have a backup plan because somebody did it, right? And sometimes we put corks on it. So then you automatically go to your plan B, C, D. And it's good to have real conversations about what challenges are there, but don't put it as an obstacle for me, right? And I think sometimes we have to continue to expand and allow people to dream. And we have to guide the dream. A lot of times we're so quick to give that reality check. Oh, well, you got to go to school for 8 years. So what that mean, right? This is something that I want to do. So I think you have to encourage people when they come to you with a dream and say, I want to do X, from little kids on, even as adults. Sometimes we want to do certain things. Let's find the way to say yes. Let's find the way to encourage. We can still be real about the realities of challenges, but don't put corks on people's dreams, because sometimes that's where it starts. And you automatically pivot to something else and then you cap your dream. Then you don't talk about it anymore. Right? And that's the issue later.
That's definitely what's up. I like that example. I often have young boys say they want to be in the NBA. So using an example, I'll have a conversation with them about, are you in a traveling league? Are you in AAU? What position do you play? So having those in-depth conversations are like, yo, are you a point guard? If they don't know the basics, because I'll spit it out there. So are you a 1, 2, or 3? I can usually size them up. But I think by having that background and encouraging that, as opposed to, like you said, saying, no, why you gotta think you want to be an NBA? It's a matter of nurturing them, but making sure that they're at least knowing about the path to do that. If unfortunately they say I want to be in the NBA, but they don't even know how to dribble, or they don't even go out and play ball with their boys, then I got to be a little more realistic.
Right.
But like I said, I can get you. You on a traveling team, or you running with your high school, or you running the middle school.
Yeah.
If they're there, it gives me a foundation to kind of encourage them and let them know, hey, maybe it might happen.
Yeah. And what is the what is the motivation for you wanting to be in the NBA? It could just be money. Right? So you have to really ask more questions of us as adults and as our youth.
Yeah.
If your motivation is money and quick money, then there's multiple options to make that type of money, right? And you don't have to necessarily do the NBA, but you have to ask more questions. And I think sometimes we are quick to answer the question as opposed to asking questions, right? And I think we have to get better at that. You think about like John Morant. John Morant wasn't even the person they were looking to draft. He was in another gym, and a coach went to the water fountain and saw him play.
Oh, wow.
Right? So think about that. You could be unlocking the potential, somebody in your house, and sometimes we cork it very quickly just because our dream, it went for you bad, doesn't mean it's going to go for me that way. So I think, you're talking about unlocking your potential, we just have to continue to encourage those conversations that happen and allow them to explore, and let's walk with them as opposed to cutting their legs off and say, nope, you got to do this. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thought.
All right. Thank you. What about you, Jason?
I'd like to co-sign all of the above. I mean,
All the above.
that is, some of those points are very insightful in the sense that, you have people that are still trying to get comfortable with the sum of all their experiences, and I think that's something that's definitely important in people getting to where they want to be is looking at the sum of all those experiences. There's going to be some good things, there's going to be some bad things, but I think, as Dr. Kirby mentioned, having that shift in perspective and the way that we process things that we've done, things that have been done to us, that so that you can put it in a place where it is not going to weigh you down in a way that limits how far you can go.
Yeah.
And so many people struggle through life trying to use the tools that are available to them, or the tools that they never sought out, to solve problems that aren't meant for one person to solve by themselves. I mean, when I think about people that, how many people have unresolved trauma, or,
Right.
unresolved circumstances and things that they've been through, and they've never talked to anybody about it. They've never met with anybody about it. They've never, they swept it under the rug and got on with life. And that's how sometimes people have been taught to solve problems. But is that the way that you would want your kids to solve their problems? Is just act like that didn't happen and get on to the next thing? Or would you want them to try to heal as best as they could?
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
But we got to do it for ourselves and, lead by example, I think. And sometimes, we tell people stuff, but then how often do we take our own advice? So, if you're trying to help somebody and you're telling them about that, well, maybe you need that too. And what does it mean when you need the same thing that you tell somebody else that they need?
Yeah.
Because I think that's hard sometimes for people to accept, and we see that happening with professionals all the time. They tell people to do stuff all the time and talk to somebody. They don't talk to nobody.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they need a therapist too.
Yeah, absolutely.
sure.
Every therapist should have a therapist.
Yeah.
I think, well, you segue to trauma, because that's where I was leading to. I believe, my personal opinion, that everybody has some type of trauma or have experienced some type of trauma. But I think a lot of people don't realize that is trauma, and they haven't identified that as trauma because it is normalized, and especially in our community, one of the things that we've talked about before is when you hear, you're a strong Black woman. And although I know it's a compliment, sometimes it feels too much, like why do I have to be labeled a strong Black woman? Why can't I just be a woman or a Black woman, right? Like it's expected that I have to be strong all the time. And these are conversations that, I've had with other women, and they feel the same way. I only can imagine in conversations with males, with Black males, with some of the things that you guys may feel with the challenges of every day and what's expected of you, in the world, but also in the home. So I feel that trauma is more a part of us than it is not. And when people do come in for therapy, of course, that is one of the questions that is asked, has there been any trauma? And a lot of people are able to identify, but then there's some people that cannot identify their trauma. But when you look at everything, the intake, it's like, wow, they don't realize that this is trauma that is normalized, So, what are your thoughts about that? What are your thoughts about the generational trauma that continues on and what is it that we need to do moving forward? Because I feel like this generation here, like these people, the younger generation, I don't think they're going to have an issue with going to therapy because they are very open about, oh, I have my therapist on speed dial. Oh, that's my therapist. Or, I don't think that's going to be an issue. What generation is what do we call them? Y, Z, where are we at? I don't even know anymore.
Millennials? Gen X?
Not the millennials. The
baby boomers?
No, the younger ones now.
Oh, I don't know what they call
16, 17, 18-year-olds. 20s.
I thought there was the Gen Zs. They're not the
Gen Zs.
Okay, yeah. They're not going to have an issue with therapy because a lot of them are already in therapy, like moving forward. I don't know. What is your thoughts about that? Do you see the same or no? You see something different?
I don't necessarily see it as they're in therapy and it's easier. I think, and I hate to say post-COVID, but post-COVID, a lot of folks needed to recognize some of their issues and concerns. So maybe they were more apt to go to therapy as a result of that. So to me, it kind of gives a perception that more people are open and inviting to it. But I gotta be honest, I still don't think younger folks are that accepting. I think we just, using the example of the mental health professionals in the schools, they're more acclimated to seeing it and knowing that it's available. Maybe we're doing a better job of trying to market it so that they know what's going on. But in my gut, I honestly don't see it as like, this is easy for, especially with the younger people. Oftentimes it's from their parents. So, I need you to talk to my young son. I need you to talk to my daughter. And these are teenagers. I have clients as young as 7. So you're talking about them actually being kind of pushed into the situation, and it's up to me to make them feel more comfortable. But it's not something that they're holding up their hand saying, "Hey, I want to go see a mental health professional."
Yeah, I think definitely not the younger ones, but I'm looking at more so our ones that are your early 20s, your 18-year-olds and up. I've noticed in my experience that they are more likely to have a therapist along with their whatever routines that they have going on. That's just something that's just like, oh, that's the thing to have now. Rather, it's easy to go into the sessions or not. I don't think that's ever easy to sit in front of somebody to, be vulnerable like that. But I think that people are in that age bracket, people are a little bit more likely to understand that it's needed. So what was you gonna say?
Well, I think there's a lot more. I mean, we talk about normalization, but if you look at how a lot of people in that age group are getting their information, they're online, they're on different social media platforms. There's people that have whole channels where they just talk about what they go through and their mental health struggles and ups and the downs. So there's a lot of different ways for people to absorb information and see other people doing the things that maybe they might need to do. Whereas, when I was young, if you told me, you're going to have something in your pocket that you can get online and talk to people, I thought that was Star Trek. That was outer space stuff, right? We're used to going to the library and looking in an encyclopedia, right? I mean, that's the generation that I was in. If you want to find out something, now you just pick up your phone, you pick up your tablet, you pick up you open up your laptop, and you got this information there and you have multiple sources of people where you can see all these examples of people talking, people sharing. You can see the stuff that people are saying to that person and how people are encouraging them, hopefully. But so I think there's more examples of good things, but I agree with Dr. Kirby in the sense that it's still not where it should be always, and not everybody finds their way into therapy because of a positive experience. It's because you had a problem and now you gotta go. Somebody comes to see. Look at the kids that you might see. Sometimes the first time that they had to see you in a school is because they had a problem. It's not because they were having problems. It's because there was a problem.
Right.
And that's how sometimes, and sadly, sometimes that's how people are identifying people that need help, is because of the maladaptive behaviors that happen. And it's like, oh, that's the person. There's so many kids that need counsel. I saw that with my own eyes. There's a lot of kids who need help, a lot of people who need help, and they're just not acting out in the same way that other people are. So it doesn't. But who chances are will get it first is the person that was misbehaving and the person that was acting out and yelling and doing these other kinds of things. But there's a lot of people that suffer in silence, I think, and just try to make it through and get from A to B, but they're hurting and they need stuff too.
So I'm gonna bring that back to what you said earlier, Dr. Kirby. You said that Black men is probably the least when it comes down to going to therapy, and you said there's a lot of people that suffering in silence. Where do we go from here? How can we get Black men to come to therapy, to talk, to open up? What is it that needs to change to be able to, get men to come in?
I think what needs to change is that they don't think of counseling as being soft. Because, straight up, you're going to talk to somebody, going to share, that's going to be soft. You might open up with your boy, somebody you grew up with, your ace, but it's real difficult to do it to that third person. So that's one of the biggest things. You were talking about strong Black women. Yeah, well, you got to be a strong brother in this world that we live in with the racial strife and the other craziness that we go through. So it's real difficult when you're dealing with that on a routine basis to like, oh yeah, so I'm gonna suddenly just give up the ghost and talk to somebody that I don't even know. So that's one of the things. Another thing is just, unfortunately, there's just not a lot of black male therapists. So, I mean, I get joked all the time, oh, you're a unicorn. You like, oh, I don't see nobody like you.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's unfortunate because the reason behind it is, you know, cats feel comfortable talking with me. But, you know, what if I wasn't somebody they were comfortable with? Because, I mean, just, you know, just because you're black don't mean you can relate to people.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm just blessed that I have a whole bunch of crazy life experiences from, you know, growing up in Philly, being in the military, all types of things that I dare say are kind of the norm to me. So when somebody talks about their boy got shot, I can relate. When somebody talks about them being in a pen, I know folks and I know what that's all about. So I think for the brothers, it's the discomfort when thinking that a counselor's not going to be able to understand them.
Yeah.
Yeah, couple things that I wrote down is like ways that we feel like we can do it. I think you just have to be as proactive as possible, right? If you think about, that's why I was asking earlier around like how does it show up in the school, and I think to your point, usually shows up when there's already a problem, right? But if we make that a course,
Right.
in younger school, why I think you normalize the conversation when they're young, right? How did you deal with your anger? How do you deal with talking about what's going on at home, or how do you deal with the F on your report card, or how do you deal with not being tall enough? Like all of those things are super small. They seem super small. They have big effects later on in life, right? Sunday school should be a mental health component in Sunday school. You in church a lot, right? Especially us. Like we had to go to church, right? But think about if that was a component to our Sunday school teachings, right? And learning about that, you have to like really and put that inside of our children, just like we do everything else. You know, I think you should talk about it in your household. You have to normalize the conversation. One of the things that, you know, I remember I was talking to my brother one time, and he talking about my kids, because, you know, as they grow up, they just know everything. And he said to me, he said, like, have you ever talked about like some of your experiences with your children, or do you shield that from them? Sometimes we have to tell our story. When did we first fall in love with mental health or fall in love with therapy? What was the thing that made us say, you know what, I need to go?
Right.
Or what was the thing that made you feel like X? Or instead of saying, you know, Kanye's crazy, and I always bring it back to Kanye, right? Kanye's crazy. You know, this is really what's happening to him. If you think about what happened with his mother, if you think about the things that happened with his wife and the things that he's trying to do, people say that's crazy and he's this and he's that. And I'm not saying that his strategy is always to be taken like it should be the way to go. But what he's doing is it's out loud. It's happening out loud.
Right.
And before you plan his funeral,
Right.
you should be diving into saying and identifying what that is with some of the celebrities that he talked to.
Yeah.
And I just think we shy away from that. Like, oh, that's this and that's that. But we have to start to normalize those conversations and identify that for our children and our adults too. You know what I mean? So that's what I think.
I think parents. Oh, I'm sorry. I think for parents, we have to stop saying because I said so.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Because that's because I said so. Because I said so. And like you said, being able to allow our kids to express how they're feeling, and not just saying how was your day in school, but using using questions where they can actually deliver answers instead of just saying, oh, it was good or it was bad. You know, what was it about your day that made you happy, you know, today? You know, who did you sit by in lunch that, you know, a friend that you may have, you know, met or whatever. Just be a little bit more, you know, involved when it comes down to some of the questions that we ask our kids.
Yeah, but once again, we're looking at that guardian, that parent that is nurturing. And my concern is always for those young people that don't have that positive home environment. So I spent a couple of years being an at-risk counselor, and we had a program where basically for 6 months I was there to talk with the young person who had gotten into some trouble with the law, and we were supposed to incorporate the family unit, whatever that may be. And oftentimes during those 6 months, it may have been myself who was maybe somebody having a legitimate conversation with them, but I could tell from the home environment that nurturing wasn't there, that wasn't going to be there. And it's not a knock. Once again, it goes with how individuals were raised, and once again, what's normalized. I mean, for us to sit down and have a conversation with our children, that's cool, that's nice, but when you, once again, you're witnessing your mom getting her eye dotted, or you are hungry and your focus is on that, that's not necessarily the environment that's going to be conducive to any lessons in Sunday school, any lessons in regular school. Just like typical reading and writing, you can do it in school, but if it's not reinforced at the crib, unfortunately, they're not going to, be nurtured and flourish. So I totally get what you're saying. It's that population that unfortunately just has the negative, raising the negative feedback, the negative interactions with that guardian figure. And that's who worries me.
For sure.
We need more Joe Clarks. Remember? He made me think of Lean on Me when he went to Sam's house. Yeah. Smoke crack, don't you? Don't you smoke crack? Went to that house. He was like, oh, I needed to take the elevator.
I mean, come on, man. I mean, I was blessed with a 2-parent family, and but I had some of my crew where it's like, whoa, but unfortunately, I mean, it was kind of normalized for me because I knew when I went to the crib, it was going to be a different atmosphere. I'll just leave it at that. But it wasn't, I didn't really look at it as negative as much as I was able to realize that everybody just grows up in a different way. Because actually, I used to get clowned a little bit because I was like, oh, yeah, you got 2 parents. You know, most of them. I'm like, oh, I thought that was a good thing. But they be like clowning me, like, all right. Oh, yeah, you got your mom and your dad. You know, I ain't seen my pop since whenever. And, my mom strung out. So, but that was the... I think it was actually fortunate for me to be, because it made me comfortable in that environment. So when people, hit me up and talk about that, I'm not like, I'm like, oh, cool. That's like, back when I was in the projects, kicking it with my boy.
Yeah. That's true. Good point. You want to add something?
Well, I think I heard all of you talking a lot about what we'll call emotional intelligence for kids, teaching them how to identify what they're going through. Well, I mean, I'm happy I do that with my son. Like, when he gets picked up from daycare, going back to daycare, because now he's going into 1st grade. Oh my gosh, right? So, but every day it's, let's talk about your day. Was there anything that you really enjoyed? Was there anything that made you feel uncomfortable today? Was there any parts of your day that you didn't like so much? Because we'll ask people how their day is with almost the implication of, I want you to tell me something good. And if it's not okay to talk about uncomfortable stuff, then you get that idea and you understand, like, I'm just supposed to keep that to myself. Right. But if you have somebody ask you about that specifically, that's a way to start opening up the conversations. And the earlier you do this, I think the better. I mean, my fingers are crossed that he'll still keep telling me when he's 13, 14, 15, because that's what usually happens is we want kids to start opening up right when they get to this age that they typically stop doing that. So you can't lay the foundation 5 minutes before you need it to be set. You know, you have to start doing that stuff, I think, as early as you can.
Well, I think as long as you continue to do it, because I know even with my sons, because that's something that I did when they were younger, and they are 16 and 18 now, and they talk to me about everything. We just have that, that relationship.
Well, look, you keep your fingers crossed for me.
I definitely
Don't you
will.
jinx me, because
I
I'll
will
be back.
not.
I'll be right back on this
I know you
podcast talking
will.
about you.
I
Remember,
know you
delete
will.
that old episode because you'll never believe what happened.
True.
And you told me everything was going to be fine.
It's going to be okay.
But I think I'm hoping that it will be too.
No, it is going to be okay, man. I mean, we have a 15-year-old in the crib, and we've been talking to her forever and a day, and it is starting to come back to where now she's letting us know when things ain't going right, and it's kind of cool because I hate to say it, you don't expect that, but she'll hit us with some deep stuff, and it's like, yo, you feel comfortable enough to come to your folks, so that makes that definitely makes you feel good, and it's because you just have those legit conversations, and like you said, it just doesn't have to be something positive to happen. It's like, yo, I see the long expression on your face, what went down in school, or somebody messing with you, this, that, and the third, and you make sure you get that out of them, and they feel comfortable talking to you about the negative in addition to the positive. And I know it's going to reap benefits for you to where as your son's going to continue to chop it up with you when he's old head.
Yeah.
That's good.
For sure.
I did have a last question, or I don't know if it's the last
Yep,
one, but
yeah, it is.
oh, sorry. So I think you made a good point in talking about like parents, right? So we can talk about the kids and what we can give the kids and provide the children, but when they go home, it's a different type of environment. So what are the things that we can give to the parents to help drive this path forward when you think about mental health and talking about the things that are going on and getting help and getting therapy? I mean, that something that carries not only for the two-parent household but the single-parent household. What are things that parents can do to increase our emotional intelligence, not only for our children but also in our relationships with the other parent or the other people in the house?
I mean, from our social media society, it's really a matter of looking up. People are real quick, MedMD, the whole nine. So I think it's just a matter of putting out there that these are ways that you can be a better parent. It's a matter of marketing it so that they feel comfortable searching for it. Because the worst thing you can ever do is imply that somebody's not a good parent. So even the parents that I was looking at, and I was like, looking at them a little cross-eyed. Because I always remember this one crib I used to go to, and I would visit this young person at 10 o'clock in the morning, and moms would greet me with a natty ice. She'd have a double deuce of natty ice. And I was like, yo, I'm here to see your son. Like, hey, Mr. Curb, you want a brew? So, just use that as an example. I would, encourage her not to be drinking at 10 in the morning in front of her son, but more importantly, just trying to, I could have rolled up in the crib saying like, yo, you should be doing that. But I would just pull her to the side like, yo, we're trying to set a positive example for your son. Maybe this ain't the time to be getting your sip on. And it's a matter of encouraging her to look for those resources in a non-threatening way that can help her with her parenting. So to me, it's marketing, it's social media, using those tools now that parents are more acclimated to. Everybody and his mom be looking at TikTok videos and seeing this, that, and the third. So it's just going to be really straight up a matter of making it approachable for parents and saying like, yo, I can be a better parent, and just rolling like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with what you're saying. For myself, I'm in a community a lot. So just that psychoeducation, bringing the information into the community, and talking. Even if they don't come up to your table, like if we're vending or something, even if they don't come up to your table, you step away from the table and walk amongst the people. Talk, make yourself approachable. Because come on now, we're talking about the stigma that has been, for so long. So make people feel comfortable to approach you, and just give them the information. Resources is so important because there's so many programs out here that can help, and people are not aware of them. So I do a lot of community work involvement.
Yeah, I think we got to make sure that we let people know right off the bat, you don't have to be perfect. That's not what counseling or therapy or mental health stuff does for you. It doesn't make you perfect. It's not going to make your child perfect, but that's not what you need. You just need improvement, right? Because that's the only thing that all of us can do is improve. Because none of us are going to get to the perfect point. We got to make sure that we talk to people and not at them. Because encouraging people to do this stuff. Well, change is like one of the most difficult things. It's the only constant, but it's the hardest thing, right? It's everything changes, but it's how it changes that it makes people uncomfortable. We're asking people to be vulnerable in a lot of these situations, and I think we have to kind of we have to respect that even the baby step that it looks like to us might be a huge step for them. And just encourage that, because stop and think about that. We used to get all that encouragement when we were little, right? Hopefully, if we were in a nurturing environment, you took one step. You take one step. You use the bathroom and it gets where it's supposed to go, right? Oh my gosh, everybody's cheering and they're standing around and clapping, and you coming out the bathroom and it's like you're a celebrity. We stop, and then what stage do we stop getting encouraged like that? When we see a parent, bring their child in or talk about something or go to a session with them, we need to get back to that. You really did it. you know, because you're leading by example.
Yeah.
You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be heading in the right direction, and your kid's going to follow you.
Yeah.
And if you want something good for them, the best thing you can do is do some things for yourself. Make sure you're heading in that direction, and it's not an admission of fault or, you know, because I think that's what sometimes, you know, when we ask people to kind of share and open up and be vulnerable, we're asking them to kind of pull back the rug on all the problems, all the trauma, all the issues. And that's hard. I think that's hard for anybody to do.
Yeah, for sure.
So so I think we also have to kind of respect and take some care and concern with what we're really asking people to do, and then show them some love and give them some support when they do it. Even if it ain't, you know, even if it's just a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that's what you're doing. Great.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. You know, help them see that it's attainable. You know, because we always talk about, you know, there's what we say to people, and then there's the way we behave with them and the way we act and the way we treat them. And people will learn much more from what you do than what you tell them. You know, because once you've shown me what you think and how you feel, you can't really tell me nothing.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Like, I mean, you can tell me you care about me, but if the things you do don't line up to that, after a while, I'm just going to tune that out. I'm not going to listen to that.
Very true.
But if I see you showing up, I see you being consistent, I see you trying, I see you, you know, being patient with me. I mean, that's how people learn. That's how people are going to get this, and they're going to get to a better place. It might not happen overnight, but it'll happen, because we all can grow, we can all learn, we can all change, we can all improve.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Thank you. Wow, guys. Well, we have passed our time, and it's been a great conversation, very informative. So I appreciate all of you for being here, taking time out of your day, your night, to come hang out with me. So I appreciate you. Any last words for our audience? Starting with you, Dr. Kirby.
I just want to put that plug out there. We need more black male therapists. So if the young brothers out there go on that college route, consider the mental health field. It's going to be real important. I know oftentimes people look to certain degrees and how much money they can make, but oftentimes just the sensation, the satisfaction of being able to help others with their mental health issues, that's to me a lot more fulfilling than chasing that almighty dollar. So we just need more black male therapists out there. So please consider those programs at various universities.
Yes, I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, I think simply for me, it's just normalizing those conversations and allow people, adults, kids, to dream, right? Walk with them as opposed to standing in front of them. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Corey.
You know, if you don't take care of your mental health, it's going to take care of you.
Very true.
So, you know, do something. You know, be proactive, support the people around you. It's one of the best ways you can show people that you really care about them, without telling them. You can show them by supporting that part of them. It's one of the most important parts of yourself and also the people around you is your mental wellness.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, my last words would be tonight, I think we started off saying that we were talking about unlocking your potential, and from our conversation tonight, it still goes back to, in order to do that, we have to make sure that our minds are good, our mental health is good. What you think is what you become. So it's important that, you know, we pay attention to our thoughts and our behaviors. And it's okay to go to therapy, and it's okay to tell someone, you know, because I think if we normalize a conversation about us going to therapy, then people feel comfortable about going to therapy.
Yeah.
Oh, you go to therapy? Oh, okay. Well, who's your therapist? You know what I'm saying? Just making that a normal conversation instead of like, shh, I go to therapy. Don't say anything. Don't tell anybody. Like it's a bad thing. So if we can just kind of work on that and normalize that part of it. And also it's okay to interview your therapist too. Because, you know, you just want to make sure it is a right fit for you. So it is okay to interview your therapist. And if it's not the right therapist for you, don't stop there. Keep looking for a therapist. Thank you guys again for coming on tonight. I appreciate you. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I appreciate you. We are here every Monday night at 7 p.m. Until then, have a blessed week. I'll see you next Monday. Good night.